Man, it is a good thing that I have the day off today because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nexus at Night. I'm Atlas, and we have a lot to cover. Thanks to Cesar Chavez being an absolute goat and unions winning me the right to have a day off at the end of March. Union strong. All right. So, March 31st, Bushiroad was saying that there would be a big change in the game. Turns out they were right. Welcome to a massively changed ban list for premium. Um, After this BCS season, a lot of people were not happy with the state of premium as it led to, crest decks basically being the law of the land. Either do the crest deck or get out, pretty much. Or if you're Mega Colony, play something specifically to counter it. Bushiroad has always been a company that seemed to be afraid to use its ban list as they saw it as a flaw of card design, and that's not what it is. A ban list is something that for an eternal format like Premium needs to be used from time to time. And they apparently heard my prayers and were like, okay, Atlas, we'll take that and nuke the format from orbit. So let's check it out. First off, we have a choice restriction between Drag Wizard Knees, the crest hitter for Shadow Paladin, and Dragheart Luard. This is going to become a pattern. Basically, what this means is no crest in premium. I'll get to the rest in a second. They also restricted, meaning banned, Reverence Rush Dragon, which can put grade 2 or greater cards on top of the deck, which if you're any Keter Sanctuary deck, that just means I can put my heal guards on top of the deck. This wasn't really as much of a problem, but probably a good idea that they did it. I'm glad they did this. This was, oh my God, I have to get to the rest. Okay, so choice restriction between Sezui and Shiranu Oboro. That's 2 crest getters down. Choice restriction between a Sleep Messiah and Alter Ego Messiah. That's 3 crest getters down. Choice restriction between Mazer Gear, Chrono Jet, Betty, and Harry. That's 5. And lastly, choice restriction between Parting Shade and Night Rose, which means that no crests. Slight correction from the future. They banned the crest getter and the G version of the grade 3, meaning that you cannot stride on turn 3 no matter what the game is. So it's either get the crest and build up the count more slowly because you use the V version of the grade 3, or play the G version, stride every turn, but no crest. I forgot about that. Sorry. In premium, which is good because in standard, where the game was a little slower, the understanding was to be aggressive early, go second against the player using the crest deck, and then you have more of a chance. This, you have things like G guards, which can pump up the crest numbers. This allows you to, if you're going second, draw 2 and get your shield tickets. That's a +3 because you're riding in a turn. That's ridiculous. This overly centralized the format onto itself, and this is great. I assume what they were going to do was, because I assume they're going to release more crest decks in the future, just say no crests in premium. But this appears to be their way to do it, which is fine. I'm glad they did this. This was a unequivocally good idea. The grade 1 that on ride gets you the crest usually floats around $40 to $60, depending what the thing is. And these needed to be killed immediately. So I'm glad they're gone. I don't think anyone's going to miss them except for the people who bought 4 ofs to get the grade 1s. But for a game like Vanguard, where the health of your game in the long run is more important than immediate sales, the crest decks are still good in standard, so they'll still see play. It's just you can't do wacky shit like this in premium. Good job, Bushiroad. And for if someone on Bushiroad, the Western branch of Bushiroad is watching this, I want you to look me in the eyes. This is a good ban list. I'm proud of you. As a teacher, I'm proud of you. They also restricted Enlargolv, which kind of makes me sad a little bit. I liked using Enlargolv. It was a very flexible card, but based on what we saw earlier with Reverence Rush, I imagine this is a similar idea. No recycling your heal guards. Not allowed. Again, a little sad, but I think it probably had to be done if they're going by Reverence Rush. Genesis got the boot here too. So Dreaming Dragon, the stand trigger that allows you to literally go forever, is banned. as is Witch of Frogs Melissa, that allows you to make your deck banned. Shacklefetter Gelia, which was part of making the Taro loop, where you would like put cards back in the deck, is restricted to 1. I think the message is clear here. They don't want the games to go long. The same thing happened with Doctorate Refros for Angel Feather and Taro herself, where they don't want games to go too long, because Vanguard has a problem with time rules where, like, no matter how much time you give them, people go to time anyway. So maybe this feels less like a meta thing and more like a we have to keep the tournaments running smoothly thing. Or they're thinking a step ahead and they're like, okay, once we kill the Crest X, what's back? Genesis. Maybe. I'm not sure. That's up to you. Drop it in the comments if you have an opinion on that. They killed Mizukaze. Good. I hated that thing. Sukamura-kan, the one that, like, basically Nubatama's win condition, where you have to pick 4 cards in your hand and bind the rest of it. Gone. Again, feels a little excessive, but I'm glad they did it because Nubatama was already pretty solid, and then the Crest made it really good. And I think I'll get to like my little wrap up at the end, but this is another thing they're doing. These are both win conditions for Nubatama, and they neutered them. In Genesis's case, these are both the setups for their win conditions, and they neutered them. So I think something's going on here. Hope on Damp for Dark Irregulars, gone. Variance Hard Leg, gone. And as a, I play DI as a hobby, I guess, a hobby within a hobby. Hard Leg is your win condition. Full stop. Hard Leg is, sorry, not Hard Leg. Hope on Damp is your win condition. Hard Leg is also kind of a win con, but Hope on Damp is easier to set up. And we'll just, NLK into Barrow Magnus into Dead. And Hope on Damp is the thing you call off of that. So I'm kind of glad that they did this, because having Hope on Damp be not a thing means that the way it works is like you have to place exactly 20k shield when playing. So it was like Battledore stills on steroids. And I don't think it was a good idea in the long run. So again, we see another example of like a deck that could probably take the place of the Crest decks having its win condition neutered. Let's keep going. Mazer Gear Dragon and Steam Maiden Malem. So the choice restriction of like, okay, so I just do it for the Crest and then just don't, keep playing Time Leap. Not allowed, buddy. You either got to do the Melem or get the hell out. And I'm also glad they did this, because that Time Leap was a robust enough like archetype, I guess you could say, a keyword, where you could just keep going. So I'm glad that they took measures against it. This is actually incorrect. At the end where it said like Gridora restricted and Katrina restricted. I'll show that in a second. First, choice restriction between Beatrice and Necrolily, meaning that Ghosty doesn't have their Denial Griffin play anymore. So what you would do is use the G Guard, which could call any Ghosty, which would be Beatrice, and Beatrice's effect would call Skeleton Cannoneer from drop, who would then do the thing. So for Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, you got a big shield and then a retire something and a draw. This was really, really good. So that means that Grand Blue's like biggest defensive tool is gone, which damn guys, you're really like doing a lot. And then lastly, because there was a slight correction, was that Gridora was restricted to 1 instead of completely banned. Which we've talked about it before on this show. Gridora is the meta gatekeeper. If you don't have tools against Gridora as a stride, you probably can't hack it. It being at 1 means you only have to survive 1 of these. So the second you see that Mega Colony starter pop up, you go, I need to find 2 copies of my grade 3, and I need to not die, and then I can do the rest of my stuff. I don't know how this is going to bode for Mega Colony as a clan. Yes, this sucks. This was their best stride. But this was probably better in the long run. I think this was more a shot at Mythiarch Mega Colony than it was at, Mega Colony, the clan. But Matt really made his intentions clear, and I think he's right. where if one card is holding the clan up by itself, you need to make better cards for that clan, not to like just keep it there, like a sunk cost fallacy thing. I think this was a long time coming. Perhaps at some point they'll outright ban Redora. I don't think that's necessarily needed. But having the problem was like I go into one and then another and then another and then you're dead. So having it be one as the Mega Colony player, you really have to pick your spot. When am I going to do the Redora to stun their field, Vanguard included, and shut off G guards? I think the shutting off G guards was the more vexing thing than the rewriting your Vanguard. Because like I was thinking about this the other day. If you're Aqua Force, for example, you can do Thavas's effect to ride from deck because that's not placing, that's writing, which then stands your whole field, which is pretty funny. I've never had to do it before, but it's like there are tools against Redora, but it's like enough of a pain in the ass where like they should probably just, kneecap her, which they did. I'm kind of glad they did. They also put Katrina to 1, which good. Katrina was always kind of operating in the background. And for those who don't know, what does this Katrina do? When she attacks, you call a card, any card, for any for every plant token you had. That means you swing with plant tokens and then call a field full of stuff, which will then, activate bloom effects and call more plant tokens and get really huge. And the problem usually wasn't the first one that would kill you; it was the second. Because if you like the first one was good, it was a win con for a lot of games. The second one, there's no coming back from that. So this is a good thing that they hit it to 1. So what does all this mean? They took a blowtorch to the entirety of the meta. And for people wondering what this is like their reasoning. So like we saw a lot of Reziel, a lot of Levi-Dross, and a lot of Bat in standard. And then this is just like literally saying what their, what cards are getting hit. But so where does this leave us? With almost everything gone, everything that like may have won a tournament. If you go and look at Fuzzy Paradox's site, like almost all of the things are Neonectar, Mega Colony, all the Crest decks. There's one thing that they left out of this shuffle though. Narukami. They did not touch Narukami. They did not do anything to neuter Narukami by the circumstances of everything else. Narukami's back on top. Bermuda Triangle, kind of back on top. So what this means is that like they have scorched the earth so that new plant life may grow. And I think that's a good thing. For the people who were incredibly exhausted by playing against Crest decks for the entire season. Outer Orange, who just made a video yesterday about how premium needs to be saved because of Summerfest maybe not having premium as the day 2 event. Go check out that video if you haven't already. She made some pretty good points. This shows that Bushiroad US or West, I forget the name, the one that focuses on the like English speaking side. This shows that they care. And I love that. On stream on Friday for us on Nexus at Night, we talked about the like an alternate format called GV. I'll link it in the description if you're interested. Let's say you were playing a deck that got completely neutered and you're like, what the fuck do I do now? Go check out a legacy format. I'm still going to be trying to get grassroots support for it because I think it's a neat format. But this shows that Bushiroad cares at the very least and that they're listening. And it also shows that they're not afraid to use their ban list when the time comes. Hopefully, they remember this in the future because seeing all these decks banned, yes, there's going to be people crying on Vanguardians. They just bought a bunch of, sorry, Adrian. There's going to be a bunch of like people who bought Crest Getters and now they're, almost worthless, or you got to put them back with the rest of your Crest decks in standard. But I think the standard is where those crests should belong, even though they were already kind of badly designed. Whatever, I'll do that on another day. But I think this shows that they care, that they're listening, and that premium isn't dead yet. So if you enjoyed that, leave a like, leave a comment, patreon.com/nexusatnight. And I'll see y'all next time.